If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
All right, look, we can tell the old stories forever, and I love them and the Weaver stuff and all that. Tell me about where you are now and what you've learned since you've left. You said you left here in the offseason of '95. I don't think it's any secret that tyranny had set in at some point in '94, not to mention the strike, not to mention the sort of parting of Larry Lucchino and the whole team that had honestly tried to transport that magic from 33rd Street down to Camden Yards with the facade of the stadium, the way it was built, the way it was marketed. You had all of these assets, including the ballpark, the harbor, the downtown, the warehouse, the legend of Robinson and Palmer and Weaver, and you've got a living, breathing Hall of Famer in the midst of this in Cal Ripken. You chose to leave your hometown. You chose to go to San Diego. I would say that you were very prescient in your assessment of either your job, your status, or what was to become here, because quite frankly, and I would put this to you, to Rick Vaughn, to Bob Brown, to David Cope, to anybody that it all ended when you guys left, and I don't want to give you too much credit or not enough credit, but things ain't the same around here, Charles. I don't know if you know that, and I know you do, but what the hell has happened, and what have you learned in your travels from San Diego with Lucchino, going up into Boston, which Boston really is replicated everything we had here in Baltimore as far as passion, but extended it out because they've made that regional thing and that nation. There was an Oriole Nation, and we had a gathering, and it was up on the hill in Cooperstown a couple summers ago when Ripken went in, and that's the last time the Orioles Nation has convened.
We had a phenomenon going on here, and that phenomenon had a strong base from the class of the Orioles that we all grew up with. And that phenomenon manifested itself when it certainly was showing itself in '79, and it was showing itself in '83. But when we got to Camden Yards, the venue became a product too. We loved Memorial Stadium because it was the place of happy memories. It wasn't so much that we thought that the brick was gorgeous. It was that it was our house of happiness. But when we created Camden Yards, and that was Lucchino's vision with Janet Marie Smith doing the brilliant execution.
Who was there today, by the way?
She is, both of them.
Well, everyone loves Julie, and we'll get to Julie Wagner in a couple minutes, but keep going.
But when Larry and Janet executed Oriole Park at Camden Yards, the venue became a source of popularity in addition to the team. It was a Hall of Fame. It was a baseball. It was a place it was a pilgrimage to come see a baseball game at Camden Yards with Boog's Barbecue. I mean, and so I'm getting letters and calls at Camden Yards at the end of our first season from not all over the country. I'm getting calls from all over the world. I remember a call from Tokyo, a call from Australia. I remember a letter from England. And they were saying, we're making our plans to come to America next summer. We want to make sure we see your ballpark. The letter from England said, I want to see your ballpark because we admire all that it stands for. Wow, what was this? It had struck a chord. So there's the
it captured the history of baseball.
All right, in a way that honored it.
But they couldn't do that in Houston because they didn't have a history of baseball. There's only a few places they could do it.
Well, they did it beautifully here. So now look, you've got baseball, and you've got the venue. And let's go back to a staff meeting that Larry Lucchino led in early '92. We would have these staff meetings on Wednesday mornings. And he said, look, we have a new ballpark and a beautiful ballpark. But in time, it will no longer be new, and it may not be as beautiful. We have this year, '92, the first year at Camden Yards, and next year...
Honeymoon.
Yes, because of the All-Star game. Now, in that honeymoon, that is the time to clutch these fans, to embrace them, to make them so happy to be here. And that's not because of the venue, that's because of how we treat them. And he said the following.
And you also knew that winning was something that you can't affect. You don't
That's
know
right.
if you're going to win.
That's right.
And quite frankly, those two teams weren't very good. The '92 and '93 Orioles were okay.
Yeah,
they hung
in
in.
September.
okay, they hung in. They're having the kind of year that Tampa's having this year. They're kind of hanging around, but they're not hanging around.
But look at the word he said next. He then said, service, 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 service. He said it 10 times.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.